Okay, so imagine like someone so rich, they make Jeff Bezos look like he was, just playing with monopoly money.
Right.
We're diving into Mansa Musa today, but
Yeah.
not just because he was, rolling in riches. I mean, this guy ruled an empire that was already like a total powerhouse.
Absolutely. Mansa Musa, he inherited the Mali Empire, and we're talking a territory that spanned like a huge chunk of West Africa.
Wow.
And this wasn't just, some random outpost. This was a major hub of
Clever.
trade, culture, scholarship, you name it. But
So he didn't just kick back and, enjoy all the gold mines.
right.
I've heard about this legendary pilgrimage to Mecca,
Oh, yeah.
a caravan of like 60,000 people,
Hmm.
hundreds of pounds of gold on every camel. What was the point?
It was a statement for sure, but a very calculated one.
Okay.
This pilgrimage wasn't just about his personal faith,
Right.
by traveling with that level of like
Extravagant.
describing. Yeah, he was showcasing the Mali Empire's wealth and influence to the whole world.
I can just imagine like jaws dropping all across the Middle East as this caravan rolls in.
Right.
But wasn't his generosity like beyond just showing off?
Oh, yeah.
I read somewhere that he like caused economic inflation
Yeah.
in some of the cities he visited because he just gave away so much gold.
Absolutely. There are accounts of him, giving gold to the poor, funding mosques, even just casually tipping with gold
I
dust.
know.
I mean, can you imagine the impact of that much gold
Yeah.
flooding into a local economy? It really shows you the sheer scale of his wealth.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It's hard to even like wrap your head around it.
Right.
But it sounds like he was bringing back more than gold to Mali.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Architects, scholars, artists. Wasn't this when Timbuktu was becoming that like major center of learning?
You got it. Mansa Musa was actively investing in transforming Timbuktu.
Okay.
He wanted to make it this unbelievable hub of knowledge,
Wow.
and he brought back the best minds to make it happen.
Like a think tank.
Yeah, kind of. Think like world-class universities, libraries just overflowing with manuscripts, attracting the brightest scholars from every corner of the globe.
So like the Silicon Valley of its day, but for knowledge instead of tech.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
But with a focus on scholarship that was like totally unique for that time,
Ah.
at Sankore University, for example,
Okay.
they were studying math, astronomy, medicine, law. I mean, really pushing the boundaries of intellectual thought.
That's an impressive range of subjects.
Yeah.
What made those fields so important in 14th century Mali?
Well, I mean, each one had a vital purpose. Astronomy, for example, was key for navigation
Makes sense.
and understanding the seasons,
Yeah.
essential for agriculture.
Right.
Medicine obviously dealt with health and well-being,
Of course.
and a complex empire like Mali
Yeah.
needed a sophisticated legal system to function.
It makes sense that a ruler focused on expansion and like solidifying his power would invest in those areas. But wasn't there something unique about Mansa Musa's approach to education? Like, didn't he make it more accessible to everyone?
You're hitting on a key point there.
Okay.
He truly believed in the power of knowledge, not just for the elite, but for everybody.
Wow.
This commitment to widespread education and cultural exchange
Uh-huh.
really set Mali apart from other societies at the time.
That's pretty incredible.
So it's like a textbook example of how investing in human capital can lead to a more prosperous and influential nation.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's amazing to think about, like this commitment to education happening hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
we think of these advancements as like modern ideas,
Yeah.
but Mansa Musa was way ahead of the curve.
He was a visionary leader for sure, and his vision wasn't limited to just education.
Right.
I mean, he oversaw some pretty major advancements in things like infrastructure, trade, even legal reforms.
I actually haven't heard much about those other parts of his reign. What were like some of his biggest achievements in those areas?
Well, take for instance, he set up the standardized system of weights and measures for trade, which helped streamline commerce, across the entire empire.
Okay. Yeah.
He also put a lot of resources into improving the roads and water systems,
Right.
which made trade and communication between different regions much easier.
So it wasn't just about, bringing in scholars. It was about creating a more efficient and connected empire.
Exactly. He was like laying the groundwork for long-term growth and prosperity.
I see.
And when it came to legal stuff,
Yep.
he's credited with introducing a more unified legal code,
Okay.
drawing from Islamic Sharia law and local traditions
Interesting.
that helped bring a sense of like fairness and order to the justice system.
Wow, this is fascinating. So it sounds like Mansa Musa's reign was marked by this like really holistic approach to governance, not
Exactly.
just intellectual achievements, but practical things that, impacted people's daily lives.
Precisely. And I think that's what makes him such a compelling figure. He wasn't just some rich emperor. He was a smart administrator who got the importance of building a strong foundation for society to really thrive.
It makes his story even more impressive. But, I'm curious, were there any like downsides to his approach? We've talked about all that, extravagant gold giving.
Right.
And I wonder, like, did any of his actions kind of backfire?
That's a great question. While his generosity is like legendary,
Yeah.
some historians think that by flooding markets with gold,
Oh,
he may have actually accidentally caused economic instability in some areas.
interesting.
It raises the question, did his good intentions end up having some unintended negative consequences?
It's like the road to hell is paved with good intentions kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes you think, even with the best intentions, actions can have those ripple effects.
For sure.
It makes me wonder what lessons we can learn from that, especially when it comes to things like philanthropy and aid today.
Absolutely. It highlights how important it is to think critically about the long-term impacts of even our most well-meaning actions.
Ugh.
Sometimes the most effective approach requires a more nuanced understanding of the systems we're interacting with.
It definitely adds like another layer of complexity to Mansa Musa's legacy.
Right.
It seems like there's more to learn from him than just admiring his wealth and accomplishments.
Absolutely. His story is a valuable case study in leadership, in vision, and in the unintended consequences of even our most ambitious endeavors.
So even though there were those complexities,
Right.
his empire still clearly thrived during his reign.
Oh, for sure.
Was all of that success just because of like his leadership, or were there other things going on?
Well, Mansa Musa was a skilled leader, without a doubt,
Yeah.
but his success was also partly due to the strong foundation laid by the leaders who came before him.
Okay.
The Mali Empire was already this well-established trading power with huge reserves of gold and other resources. His predecessors had built strong diplomatic relationships and a solid internal administration system.
So it was a mix of, personal leadership and just being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. He definitely took advantage of the opportunities he was given,
Mm-hmm.
but he also brought his own vision and ambition to the table, which really took Mali to the next level.
It makes me wonder, if we look at leaders today, how much of their success comes down to their own talent versus the circumstances they inherit? Makes you think about the role of context and how that shapes how we see leadership.
That's a really interesting observation.
Yeah.
That's actually a question worth exploring further, maybe even a topic for another deep dive.
I like it.
It reminds us that history is this complex tapestry woven from individual actions, societal structures, and just the unpredictable way events unfold.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, we often hear about Mansa Musa's legacy,
Yeah.
but what does that actually mean? Like, how did his reign shape the course of history?
That's a great question to bring up. His legacy has so many different sides to it.
Okay.
On a global level, he really put Mali on the map, so to speak. His pilgrimage to Mecca showed the whole world the wealth and sophistication of the Mali Empire,
Right.
and it really challenged existing perceptions of Africa.
So he helped change the narrative around Africa, showing its intellectual and economic power.
Exactly. And within Mali itself,
Yeah.
his investments in education infrastructure and legal reforms had a lasting impact on the empire's social, cultural, and economic development.
So his influence went way beyond his own reign.
Yeah.
And contributed to this like cultural and intellectual legacy that we can still see today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
His story is a powerful reminder that individuals, through their actions and their vision, can leave a mark on the world,
Yeah.
shaping not only their own time, but the course of history for generations to come.
It's truly inspiring to see how one person's leadership can have such a huge impact.
Right.
But what about the challenges he faced?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about those potential economic hiccups,
Yeah.
but were there other obstacles he had to overcome?
Of course, ruling such a vast and diverse empire wasn't easy.
Yeah, I imagine.
He had to deal with internal power struggles, put down rebellions, and defend his borders from neighboring kingdoms.
So it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Yeah.
What can we learn from how he handled those challenges?
Well, his reign shows the importance of strategic thinking, diplomacy, and being willing to adapt to changing circumstances.
Yeah.
For instance, to maintain control over such a large empire, he appointed trusted family members as governors of key provinces.
That's smart.
It helped consolidate his power and make sure there was loyalty within his administration.
Clever. It shows a real understanding of the complexities of power and how important it is to build a strong support system.
For sure.
Are there any other examples of his leadership in action during times of conflict or turmoil?
When he was faced with military threats, he was known to use a combination of military force and diplomacy.
So it's not just brute strength all the time.
He understood that brute force alone wouldn't guarantee stability.
Right.
Sometimes negotiating treaties and forming alliances was a much better way to secure peace and protect Mali's interests.
Sounds like he was a pragmatist, choosing the best course of action based on what was happening at the time.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to use military force when he needed to.
Yeah.
But he also recognized the value of diplomacy and strategic alliances to achieve his goals.
So it adds another dimension to how we see Mansa Musa.
Right.
He wasn't just this kind scholar king.
Yeah.
He was a shrewd strategist and a skilled diplomat who knew how to rule a huge empire.
And that's what makes studying history so fascinating. It challenges those preconceived notions we have and shows us the many sides of even the most legendary figures.
And speaking of challenging preconceived notions, Mansa Musa's story really flips the script on how we think about African history.
Absolutely. His reign really goes against that common misconception that sub-Saharan Africa was isolated or behind the rest of the world intellectually and economically.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a good reminder that history is often told from a limited perspective.
For sure.
And it's up to us to dig deeper and find the full story, to explore all those rich cultures and civilizations that shaped our world.
I completely agree. Exploring stories like Mansa Musa's helps us broaden our understanding of history and challenge those narratives we've been taught.
And that brings us back to the question of Mansa Musa's legacy.
Yeah.
We've talked about his impact on Mali and Africa, but what about his relevance to us today? What can we learn from him in the 21st century?
That's a fantastic question. His story offers valuable lessons for leaders, policymakers, and really anyone who wants to make a positive impact on the world.
So what are the key takeaways that we can apply to our own lives and challenges?
Well, first, his visionary leadership style is definitely inspiring.
Oh.
He didn't just maintain the status quo.
Yeah.
He actively tried to improve his empire and its people, investing in education, infrastructure, and social well-being.
So leading with a long-term vision in mind.
Right.
Focusing on sustainable growth and development that benefits everyone.
Precisely. And second, his dedication to education and sharing knowledge shows how important it is to invest in people.
Yeah.
He understood that a nation's true wealth is in the minds of its people.
It reminds me that education isn't just about personal gain.
Yeah.
It's about empowering communities to solve problems,
Yeah.
innovate, and build a better future.
Exactly. And third, his story emphasizes the power of cultural exchange and collaboration.
Okay.
You know, his pilgrimage to Mecca wasn't just a religious journey.
Right.
It was a chance to build connections with other cultures, share knowledge, and spark new ideas.
So being open to diversity, looking for different perspectives, and recognizing that working together can lead to better understanding and progress.
Exactly. In a world that's increasingly interconnected,
Yeah.
these lessons are more important than ever.
It's pretty amazing to think that a leader from the 14th century can still teach us so much today.
Right.
I'm curious, though. We've talked about all these great things Mansa Musa did.
Uh-huh.
But were there any parts of his reign that weren't so admirable? Any contradictions or complexities that we haven't touched on yet?
That's a very thoughtful question, and it brings up how important it is to look at historical figures critically.
Okay.
While we celebrate Mansa Musa for his wealth, his generosity, and his advancements in scholarship,
Yeah.
we have to acknowledge that he ruled within a system that benefited from the labor of others, including enslaved people.
It's a tough reminder that even the most celebrated people in history were part of systems that often weren't fair or just.
Exactly. And it's important to recognize those complexities when we study history so we don't romanticize the past or ignore the experiences of those who were marginalized or taken advantage of.
So how do we reconcile the good parts of Mansa Musa's legacy with the realities of the time he lived in?
That's a really complex question, and there isn't an easy answer. I think it's crucial to approach history with nuance. Recognizing both the achievements and the shortcomings of people and societies, we can learn from the past without condoning or ignoring its darker sides.
So basically holding those seemingly opposite ideas in mind at the same time. Yeah. Appreciating the accomplishments, but also acknowledging the injustices that existed.
Exactly. It's about embracing complexity and recognizing that history is rarely black and white.
Right.
It's a mix of triumphs and tragedies, progress and setbacks, and it's our job to understand all of it.
That's a powerful message, and it really sticks with me.
Yeah.
Seems like the more we learn about history, the more we uncover those layers of complexity and nuance.
It's a constant journey of discovery, and that's what makes it so captivating.
Oh,
We're always challenging what we think we know and refining our understanding of the past.
yeah.
And that process of learning and reevaluation is crucial for growth for both us as individuals and as a society.
I couldn't agree more. By engaging with history in a thoughtful and critical way, we gain valuable insights that can shape our present and our future.
So Mansa Musa's story, with all its complexities, is a great example of how history can teach us about leadership vision, the unexpected consequences of our actions, and how to approach the past with nuance and critical thinking. Exactly. His reign is a reminder that history isn't just a bunch of facts and dates.
Yeah.
It's a living story filled with lessons that can guide us through the challenges of our own time.
Man, it's incredible how much wisdom and inspiration you can get from just one person's story. As we wrap up our deep dive into Mansa Musa's life, what would you say is his most, impactful legacy?
His legacy has so many different layers, but I think what really shines through is his dedication to knowledge and progress.
Yeah.
Mansa Musa really understood that a society's true strength comes from its people's intelligence.
Yeah.
He put so much into education, he brought in scholars, and he fostered a culture of learning that lasted for centuries.
It's a powerful message, especially today when we have more access to information and knowledge than ever before.
Exactly. Imagine if we all embraced that same commitment to always learning, to sharing what we know, and using that knowledge to make the world a better place.
It makes you think about the possibilities we all have, to make a difference both individually and together. If one man could achieve so much hundreds of years ago, what could we do today if we had a shared vision and a dedication to progress?
That's the question I want you to keep thinking about. Mansa Musa's story isn't just some cool historical fact.
Right.
It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we all have the ability to learn, to grow, and to contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
And that the things we do, even if they seem small, can have a ripple effect that lasts way beyond our own lifetimes.
Precisely. So as you go through your day, ask yourself, what am I going to learn today? How am I going to share what I know? And how am I going to use my knowledge to make a positive impact on the world?
Those are some great questions to keep in mind. Thanks for taking us on this incredible deep dive.
It was my pleasure. And remember, the journey of discovery never really ends. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep working to make a difference.